One of the biggest things that we are here to teach humans is that suffering is never an outside cause, that everything that you are experiencing is sovereign, is coming from inside of you in the way that you are feeling. And so when a human starts to blame someone, when a human thinks someone is responsible for the way that they feel, they are actually expanding that negativity and they are not allowing the flow to reach them. When you become the I am presence, when you say, I am choosing to feel this way, I am choosing this thing that I am feeling. This is what we call the I am presence, or the ability to embody your source in your view of yourself, in what you have chosen to feel.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Julie Ryan Show. It's where we blend spirituality and practicality to help you live a life of purpose and joy. We have Robin Jelinek with us today. Robin channels a group of spirits that call themselves Athena, and they help guide people on their lives' path. It's going to be interesting to learn how Robin first met up with these spirit guides and what she's learned from them over the years. I'm even going to ask her if they have a message for all of us. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Now let's go chat with Robin and Athena. Robin, welcome to the show. I'm so delighted that you could join us today.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
You bet. What's the word Athena mean to you?
Oh, life-changing, I guess, would be a good description for that word. Sure didn't expect that at the age of early 60s, I think I was, when this whole thing happened. But it's been a really delightful and magical time for me, I have to say. And I've really enjoyed the process of everything that's unfolded over the last couple of years and continues to unfold.
So tell us about Athena. Who's Athena? How did Athena come to you? What's the whole story behind Athena?
Yeah, well, backing way up into my early 20s, I think this probably all ties together. I was really drawn to a lot of spiritual books, a lot of reading, everything from mediumship to you name it, I read it. And during that time, we were running a water well drill business, and I had two small boys at the time. And so whenever I had free time, I was always reading or studying something and trying to tell my husband about what I had read or learned. And he'd say, I'm busy right now trying to make a living. Maybe in 20 years, when I have a little more time, we can talk about it. And so that did go on for about 20 years. And then about my early 40s, my two boys, which I absolutely loved being a mother and raising, and was never one happy to have them be gone. Of course, I wanted them to have their own lives, but I really enjoyed having them at home. And when they went off to college, I would say that I went into what felt like a grief state. Every time I'd walk by their room, I'd cry, because I was used to seeing them every day. And, I kind of upped my spiritual journey a little bit. I did more reading, and I even got into some practices, which I had never done any prior to that. And then around the age of 43, I had a full Kundalini awakening, which was a shocking and dramatic experience that really changed my life. To actually have all your energy centers, to hear them spin, to have them take off, to feel that snake rise through your body. It was a confirming moment for me that really everything that I had ever read, and although I would say I believed in it, to have a concrete experience that made it seem real to you was something that I really felt was a gift, and was left changed by it. I really went on another search then to do all of the study and reading that I could about Kundalini energy and what it actually meant.
What is Kundalini energy for those that don't know?
Kundalini energy is a universal consciousness. We are consciousnesses. Each one of us has a consciousness, and the universal consciousness is the soul aspect of ourselves that actually sits at the base of the spine. It's the energy of creation. It's called the female divine feminine energy. And anyone with focused and intent and desire to know more, the universe enacts that energy, and it will actually rise up the spine and open up your energy centers. And that's really what connects you to the divinity aspect of yourself. So it's where you are sending and receiving based upon your feelings and your emotions, between you as a human and you as the divine part of yourself. And so when you open those energy centers, what happens is it increases the divine flow, or the amount of energy that's coming into your body, and it speeds up your vibration. So it makes you a quicker manifester. A lot of people like that. If you're thinking about the right things, sometimes I'm not, and you get something really quickly that you prefer not to get. But it really changes you. It kind of sheds a light on everything that is denying you access to what you're asking for. We have to take a look at ourselves and what we don't like or love in the way that we feel, and that energy really ignites what it is that you're holding within you. That's actually preventing you from having that really tight connection with the divine part of yourself. So it's an energy that is similar. It's the same in everyone, and some of the experiences that people get are pretty similar when that energy rises. The way that it's felt uh, is determined a little bit about how much negativity you have in your body, because that can be resisted when that energy is trying to rise. And it will accelerate negativity if you have a lot of things that repeat experiences or ways of being. Let's just use that maybe you don't really like yourself in. You're going to see a lot of it when that energy gets activated. And the main reason for that is to let go of it so that you can actually make more space.
Does everybody have the ability to ignite that energy? How do they do it? And we'll come back to Athena because we kind of went down this other rabbit hole, but it's
Yeah.
fascinating. And
Yeah.
what was there a catalyst that ignited your feminine goddess, feminine divine, whatever you want to call it, Kundalini
Well,
energy?
what I'm told is that every human at some point in the evolution of their soul, not necessarily this lifetime, but in some lifetime, they will enact that energy. And you only do it once. Once the 7 energy centers are open, you go on to open 122 inside of the vessel. And those energy centers work independently on their own to accomplish that. And that goes on from lifetime to lifetime. So eventually, everybody will have that experience. When they have it is largely dependent on themselves and their interest and their desire to know more. I was always a seeker, one that wanted to understand, what am I doing here? And am I going to know myself when I'm gone, or am I just over? These types of questions were something that I was always pondering within myself. And I don't think people realize that the universe is a question answer or a solution maker. And so as you start to pose those kind of questions, those experiences actually start to get ignited within you.
So, was there a catalyst that caused yours to all open up and align? And
So with me, I was doing some breath work or breathing into my energy centers and focusing on opening them and getting to know what was I holding in my body that was preventative of connecting to the source part of myself. And so each night before I would go to bed, I did a practice where I would breathe into each one of the energy centers. And now I've come to teach that. I actually understand that we are conductors of light, and we actually, with our focus and our intent, can get those energy centers to respond and open to us, and we can actually bring in more and more divine light energy. And so at the time, unknowingly, that's what I did. And as I sped up my vibration, and that Kundalini energy just rises as a result of that, and then it starts you on that really spiritual path that you're trying to unfold into. And so that's how mine occurred. However, it's funny that you bring that up. There have been people that have walked out of their house and tripped and had their Kundalini go off. So it's not to say that what I did actually made it happen, or if it was just the timing. Maybe it's just the right time. Some people think that having a spontaneous awakening is a negative, because it can create what is called a dark night of the soul, where people have a lot of negative experiences because they haven't readied themselves or known themselves in the way that they were thinking and feeling. And so it accelerated some energy that maybe was negative in them. But I feel like mine happened in the perfect way, because I end up teaching this, and I've had every possible experience with that energy that you can have. I had a partial rising where it hit so many blockages, it veered off to the side. And then a couple of years later, it came down through the crown, which I didn't even know that was a possibility. So I kind of blindly went about this process, and through feeling and experience, I really got to understand it, and a lot of reading. And like I said, there are a lot of similarities. When people do have Kundalini rising, you're going to hear those things spinning like a top going off. You're going to hear like 1,000 hummingbirds in the room. You're going to feel the rise of the snake as it goes through. So those are kind of things that everybody normally experiences with the Kundalini rising. But then after the awakening, what goes on in the next 1 to 10, 20 years will be different for everyone.
okay, so we'll come back to that. I read an article one time about Sting, the musician and singer, and he had his Kundalini awakening in an ayahuasca retreat in Peru and said it was never the same. You talk about the snake rising. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
Well, when it first happened to me, when it first took off, I felt as though I got struck by lightning. It wasn't an electrical experience. That's the only way I can describe it. So I had the electrical bolt hit me through my arm. And then immediately I started to hear like what sounded like when you pull a string on a top, that zzz, kind of a spin sound. And I actually felt like something inside of me in all of those energy centers were spinning at one time. And then I felt something at the base of the spine just take off, and it hit each one of those centers, and it was as though it was puncturing a layer or something that was held between each one. And where it would hit areas that it couldn't travel through, it would actually back up and go again, and it would be a little uncomfortable. I can't say that it was terrible pain, but it was definitely somewhat painful when it would back up and try to hit to go through. And some of them it managed to break through. And then I did have a knowing or a feeling that it hit the heart center. And for me, it veered off. There was just too much energy, whether it would be this life or other lives of experiences that were maybe traumatic or painful, that were contained in that energy center that didn't allow it to make its full ascent. And so what happened then was I got an acceleration of sadness. I got an acceleration of a lot of emotion with no basis, no reason for it. There was nothing going on in my life that I could really tag it to. And I had to just go through this outpouring that went on for a couple of years where I just felt like my experience got really flat. Friendships were not the same. They just didn't feel connected to me anymore. And so everything kind of flattened out during that. And now I look at that more as a dying off period. It's kind of like part of you and your human perception of yourself kind of dies off as you're merging together with this awareness that there is this other higher, greater aspect of you that you really didn't pay attention to or know that existed. And then, like I said, a couple of years later, I had the energy come down through the top of my head, which was another really shocking and dramatic experience. It felt like a jackhammer. That's the only way I can describe it, as it broke through the top of my head. And then I felt the spinning. I heard the noise again and the hot lava feeling that pours through each one of the centers as that energy goes. And so I knew right away that, oh, this is coming the other way. This is what it is. And then it once that happened, I felt like my whole experience kind of leveled out. Things started to get better, and a lot of the things that I was experiencing emotionally leveled out after that.
I hadn't thought about this in the longest time, Robin, but when I first started doing this woo-woo stuff 30 years ago, I remember saying to my mentor, "My God, I have pain in my heart, in my chest, and I'm in my early or mid-30s." I forget, I was probably 35 at the time, maybe 32. And I remember thinking, "Good heavens, I'm in great shape. Am I having a heart attack? What is going on?" And she said, "No, that's your heart center, your heart chakra opening up." And I didn't experience all the pain that you did, but I remember thinking that those bolts that came in from up above and the ones that came in through your arm, where do you think those originated and what do you think they are?
You know, I would not describe myself as a religious person, and this particular night, and I had done the practice for probably a couple of months where I would just breathe into my energy centers before I would go to sleep at night. And this particular night, why I don't know, I reached up in the air. I just stuck my arm up in the air, and I thought I had no reason to do it. I don't know why I did it. I felt like something made me do it or encouraged me to do it. And the minute that I put my arm in the air, it came down through my hand. That's where it actually hit me. And it made a snap. It actually shook my husband. He actually heard it. And actually he heard the second rise as well. So it's, even though it's so loud within your own body, you're swept up in it. You can't move, you can't talk, you can't signal anyone about what you're going through. You just have to let the process unfold. But he had some awareness that something was happening. But he's the kind of guy that just ignores things. So the next morning he would say to me, "What the hell went on in there?" And I'd say, "Well, this is what happened." And nothing really rattles him too much. It's not that he doesn't believe, but he doesn't get too worked up about things like that. But in any event, that's what happened. There was definitely a bolt. It felt like a bolt of lightning. And so when you asked me what that was, I think the universe is an electrical or a very powerful source of energy that we feel like electricity. And that's exactly what it felt like. That's what started the energy centers. It's what kicked them off.
Is your definition of the universe source, God, all the ascended masters, the whole 9 yards, or is your definition of universe the universe as we know it with the Milky Way galaxy here
Yeah.
that we live in?
Well, I think there definitely is a God or what we would call a source. And I think we are all a fractal, a piece of that source. You have an individual soul that is expressing in that fractal that re-expresses from one lifetime to the next that never ends. And it's just been a really interesting journey. I had a hard time comprehending when people would say, "Well, we're all coming from the same thing," and then maybe you saw someone that you didn't really like the way that they were, and you had a hard time swallowing that they were coming from the same thing. But I'm kind of getting grounded in that now, or starting to get a better understanding of how what that really means. But yeah, that's my perception or belief that we are all a fractal of God, and that we re-emerge back into that source, but we bring with us everything that we have accumulated and learned, and give that back to the whole and to ourselves.
I agree, and it is so funny to see people's reactions, and I know you get the same thing where you say, "Well, yeah, all spirit." I always say all spirits are pure love, and people look at me, or I can hear them on the phone saying, "What about these mass murderers? What about Hitler? What about Genghis Khan? What about these historic figures that just murdered tons of people and did just diabolical things and all of that?" I say, "That's a role they were playing in the movie that's this life, but their spirit is pure love." And yeah, what's your take on that?
Well, we're all the same, except for we're all having different life experiences. We're coming in different lineages and different parenting and different races. All of those types of things play a part in the way that you perceive your experience. And so, people like Hitler, if you wanted to use him as an example, when someone does those types of things, they don't love themselves. They are probably having all kinds of feelings of negativity of which maybe we don't know or we can't really confirm. But I can only say that when you feel that way, you become disconnected to your source. Not that your source doesn't love you or that it wouldn't flow through you, but you actually deny the entrance of it in the low tone that you're holding in the life that you're living. So those people that are behaving that way, they don't have the guidance of their source, and it's not because the source has forsaken them or thinks that they're not worthy of getting it. It just means that they're not connected to it. And that's really a big part of what I do in the work that I do is to assist people in being connected to that, in understanding that it is through the love of self. And that's another thing I never really understood until recently. And the love of self is I surrender to my free will choice in the way that I feel in my experience. And that's quite different than what I thought that it was. I'd stand in the mirror and trying to be loving this and didn't really understand that, it's about loving yourself in your jealousy, loving yourself in your anger, in your rage, in your disconnection, because that love of self is what actually lifts your vibration and makes you a match to the divine. And then your behavior is changed automatically by flow. The human does one thing, it feels its experience, and what it's done with that, that's all it can do. Everything else is coming through flow. Everything else is coming through that source part of you. And so once you understand that by becoming a match is how you can be connected to your source. So there's never a time when you're going to go against yourself or someone else in the way that you feel and feel connective. You're not going to get the flow that way. And then the negativity is going to be the result of that. That's what you're going to feel.
I take it a step further, and I'd love to hear your take on that and on this. And that is, I'll say, you ever seen a really famous actor be interviewed and they say, "What are your most favorite roles?" And we'll think something that was great and was happy and all that. And most of the time they'll say whoever the most sinister role was that they played, the most sinister character. And the interviewer will say, "Well, why is that your favorite?" And they'll say, "Because that role was so nuanced. There was so much depth to trying to understand the mindset of that character, and that it was really more fun to play that role than to play Maria." Get it? Like Julie Andrews played Victor Victoria versus Maria in The Sound of Music, or whoever in all of her Mary Poppins, for instance. And she said those roles were so much richer in the character development that they did. And I often think that when we choose a life of something that's less than optimal. Maybe we're a mass murderer or something in our life, or doing something that we would see as being unethical or even horrific. I think by the time we get back to heaven, we're going to say, "Oh, that was so interesting." Because what I've heard from spirit a lot is that in heaven, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just an experience, and that they're watching us to see what we're creating. And we need the dark in order to create what we want. If we're in a situation where we don't like the situation, we have the opportunity to create something new. And that's how things are created. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, when you talk about an actor saying how much they enjoyed playing the nasty role, part of it was probably that they were able to surrender to it. They were able to allow themselves to be that way, and not attach to it. And so the problem with a human is when you're really living that role, you attach to it, and that's what creates separation. It's not the role that you're living or the way that you're living that's causing the separation. It's the way you're perceiving yourself in it that actually denies you the access to flow. And so I think that that's probably the difference is an actor's probably not in any way attaching to that role or thinking they are that way. And therefore, it's kind of funny or satisfying experience for them to have. It's not so funny when you're actually living it.
And I talk to clients or people who call into my show, and they'll say, "I don't want my mom's spirit there when I'm dying. She was the bitch from hell. She's like the last person I went there." I say, "Yeah, that was her personality that stays with the body when somebody dies. Her spirit is pure love. So when you greet her in heaven, you can take her an Oscar and say, 'Mom, you deserved an Academy Award for that role that you played because you were awful.'" And then the spirit's pure love. Let's go back to Athena.
Mhm.
Who's Athena? How did you get in touch with Athena? What does Athena do?
Yeah. Well, I went a lot of years in my life struggling with confidence, and a lot of it was revealed through the sport of tennis. And I was a very good player, but when I would come up against certain people that had that really drive kind of personality, I could feel that I would get intimidated, and then I'd start to doubt myself, and then lo and behold, my skills would go down because of it. And in this particular day, I came home and I just sat down in my room that I'm in right now, and I just asked myself, and I feel like it was really an authentically asked question. I just said, I'm 61 years old. If I'm going to get any confidence, when is it going to happen? And I really expected an answer, and it was the oddest thing. And in that moment, I felt, but it did. Backing up a little bit, 2 weeks prior or 3 weeks prior to this happening, I started to experience a lot of automatic mudras over my body, which I have never
Which is
learned.
what?
Uh, there was sign, like, things that are different shapes that are happen with the hands all over the body. If you look up mudras, anyone can look them up on the internet. It's a little bit of a form of yoga, but it happens with your hands. And some people use it for types of healing and things like that. Each sign means something different, but this was going
Like
on.
a Sanskrit sign kind of
Yeah,
a
it was
thing?
just going on all over my body. All these signs that you make with your hands. You can look
Huh.
at.
Were you cognizant of it, or it just
Yeah,
was
yeah.
happening?
I actually recorded it because it was
So
so
you did
bizarre.
it on purpose?
No, I didn't do it. Something did it through me.
Okay.
I know nothing about mudras, and I've never, seen them. I actually had to look up what are automatic hand movements because I didn't know what it was. So there were things going on, and there was, like, my mouth would get pulled to one side, lots of eye leaking, like, just water coming out all the when I would sit, lots of excessive yawning, like, times 1,000, like, you just waiting and waiting to get this yawn out, and it would feel like a release of some type of energy. So these kind of things were going on for a number of weeks prior to the arrival of Athena. And then that particular day when I posed that question about confidence, I just felt my body sit up, and it's the oddest thing to say that I did not do it. I felt a breath come into my body, and I was, as Robin, thinking, "What's going on here?" And then I heard an audible voice say, "How does it feel? This is what a woman feels like that is confident in her power." Kind of threw my head back. It was something I myself would never gesture or had never done. And so I knew that it definitely wasn't coming from me, but I didn't know how to communicate with it or what was going to happen from then on. And I would say about 2 weeks later, I took a trip with my husband, and we met our son in Fort Lauderdale. And I was telling him about some of the things that were happening with my hands and the excessive yawning. And then I spoke to him about the sitting up thing, and, the minute I started to talk about it, I could feel, like, my whole body just involuntarily start moving. It was the most bizarre thing, and I'm probably the most average normal person that you would ever imagine meeting. So, it just didn't resonate with me at all what was happening. And then he noticed it and he said, "Well, it looks like something is kind of taking over and wanting to talk. Why don't you come out and talk to us?" And when he said that, that's when the speaking happened. It was as though the invitation was made and immediately the channeling started. In the beginning, it was a little bit uh, overwhelming, I would say, because I didn't understand how it worked. I was thinking about it all the time, and therefore they were talking all the time, so I felt like my whole life was being dominated by it. And then I finally, got upset and said, "My life isn't the same. I gotta do laundry. My husband wants to read his paper." And then again, the audible thing came through. That doesn't happen very often. It's not I don't normally receive words. Once in a while when I ask, I'll get words, but for someone else, I'm out completely, and the words just come through. So when I make an inquiry myself, I'll get the audible voice that will say, "Well, if you quit thinking about us, how do you think we're perceiving you?" Is what was said. We are perceiving you by invitation when you think about us. So if you stop thinking about us all the time, we will not be interrupting you in your life. And so I'll go on a 10-day trip and I won't even think about it. And I won't they won't be out, but the minute I would think, "I wonder what they'd think about that," then they're out. That's how it works. But it took a while to establish that. And it took a while for the delivery to smoothen out. It was definitely arduous, a lot of sweating, a lot of discomfort in the throat area and things like that. But it only took about 4 months, I would say. And then things really kind of kicked into more of a normal mode, I would say.
I give your husband a whole lot of credit because I don't know too many husbands or wives for that matter that wouldn't have been running for the hills going, "What the heck
I mean,
is
I don't
this?"
know what I would do if I was married to someone that couldn't accept it, because what comes with this is, a desire to use it or to share it, and, it would be very difficult to maintain a relationship with someone who denied you that, privilege or doing what you were meant to do. I would describe it that way, yeah.
I was dating my husband. He had a bone spur on the bottom of his left foot, and I had just started doing this energy healing stuff. This was 30 close to 30 years ago. And we were lay he was laying on the couch, I was rubbing his foot, he had his foot on my lap, both feet, and, I said, "Can I do a healing on you?" He knew I was taking these classes, and he said, "Yeah, whatever." So I did, and I could see the bone spur, and he tells the story great. He's got this big, deep Southern voice, and he's a great storyteller, Tim. So I'm holding his foot, and I said, "You had plantar's warts. I can see where you had plantar's warts." And he goes, "I don't have any plantar's warts." And I said, "No, you don't now, but you did." And he said, "Yeah, when I was 8." And he said, "And they burned them off." And he said, and I was touching his heel where I could see the scars from the plantar's warts.
Mhm.
And he tells the story that he says, and we were just dating at this time, we weren't engaged yet, and he said he thought to himself, "Should I run for the door now? Or, or should I follow through on this?" And then I did a healing on him, and it's spirit working through me and with me as they do through you. Nobody heals anybody else. But then he went back, and the bone spur was really painful. He went back to the doctor later the following week because they were gonna schedule surgery, and they did another X-ray on it, and the bone spur was gone. And he said, "Okay, there's something more to this than meets the eye." And again, it wasn't me, it was him healing himself. I was facilitating that. And, that story came to mind when you were tell the story about your husband saying, "Okay, well, what do you have to say as far as Athena?" How did you know is this one spirit? Is it a group of spirits? What makes up Athena?
Yeah, and, originally it was 7, and that number has increased, but I don't really keep track of it, and that's not really determined by me. I'm just, an immediate channeler. If you would ask me to start channeling, it would be just like that. There's there's no lag time coming in and out for me
Yeah,
at all.
I'm the same way.
They are the keepers at the gate. So if there's any other entity that's going to be allowed into the group, they take care of that. That's not something that I worry about. In the beginning, there was a lot of naming going on, and who are we really? We put a name on
Oh,
ourselves
yeah.
so that we can call each other from the
Right.
kitchen or whatever it is. But in reality, it doesn't mean anything. And Athena just represents confidence. That's what I was calling out for.
Oh,
So that name actually was born. And in their description of love, truth is love. People want the truth. They really want to feel something that they can feel the resonance of or the likeness to. And so the Athena in truth was born of that principle. That's where that name came from.
I love that. Why do you think they chose you to channel through you?
But this is something that I did even when I wasn't channeling. Always had a really expanded version of empathy to the degree that it was not comfortable. Like I could go in a store where no one knew me, and within 5 minutes, everybody's going to tell me, that their husband had another woman, that their child died, that whatever it was that they were struggling with, it got placed on me wherever I went, and I didn't know at the time why that was happening, but I think that that's a big part of most channelers. They really want someone to have that empathetic quality so that you can feel through your body the person and deliver that information to them. In when we're having sessions and things like that, it's kind of like putting on the jacket of the person that you sit with, and you can immediately feel everything that they're going through and what it is that needs to be addressed. That's going to be beneficial to them personally. So that's how I would describe that. That's as close a description as I can give you, but it is a group that does continue to add more. One of the things that's kind of hard to describe, I don't really understand it myself, but that Kundalini energy that activated in my early 40s, it took me only 20 years to reach the crown. It wasn't something that happened overnight. A lot of people think they get a Kundalini awakening and like they think, oh, wow, I'm awakened. No, you're not. You got a lot of things to look at in yourself, and you should do that before you're seeing people, or everything that they're going through can be a stimulant to you, and you really don't want that in your experience. So it took a long time for that energy to meet the crown, and when it did, there was an announcement that it met the Shiva, the male energy at the top, and I actually have another website now called Athena Universe, where all of the downloads and the written information comes from that Shiva energy, which is quite different than what I do for Athena in Truth. It's a very different delivery. So that's something that everyone can have access to. When you awaken your own Kundalini and it reaches your crown, whenever that ascent is made, you become very connective to the divinity part of yourself. So you get the same flow. You get the ability to speak and be very connective and draw people into your experience for the work that you're doing. But everyone who enacts their Kundalini energy gets access to that higher version of themselves. And then also, if your Kundalini is activated, not every channeler has active Kundalini, but those that do almost always become a channeler. So I kind of knew when I had that experience that this experience was going to follow.
Interesting. What what's the difference between the male energy and the female energy to you? What do you perceive as different
Yeah.
about it?
Well, the divine feminine is the energy of creation. It's more of a feminine energy, and actually, what really stimulates that Kundalini energy at the base of your spine is your interest in her, your focus on it, and that really is somewhat likened to how females are. It's why they fix themselves up and wear the makeup that they do and dress the way that they do.
Well, and we create life. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the part
create.
of us that creates life.
Also, like to be, viewed as feminine or, in that fashion, and then as that energy, reached the crown, it felt much more like a powerful masculine, more male dominant, form of energy. It's definitely detectable.
Interesting. When I would love for you to see if Athena has a message for us. But first, can you describe to us what you go through when you're thinking of, you think of Athena and then what happens? Do you just start talking? You do nothing. They just start talking through you.
Yeah, I have there's an awareness that I exist, and I had an experience years ago where I had an out of body experience, and I saw myself laying on the bed. I was asking, "Am I still gonna exist when I'm no longer in the body, or I'm not Robin? Will I know who I am?" And then there it was again, that funny voice popping me out of my body saying, "Do you know who you are?" And I thought, "Yeah, I know. Of course I do. I feel just the same way I do when I'm in the body, but I don't sense the body. I don't think about my children. I don't think about my husband. I'm still Robin, but I'm Robin unattached. I'm Robin with none of that, uh, the heaviness or, what comes with life,
The
none of that.
density.
Yeah, the density. So
Yeah.
none of that was there, and so when I move into the channeling state, that's what happens, is any, recollection of my own life or existence as Robin just no longer exists. And I have that pure awareness. I know that I'm accessible. If someone calls me, I can come right back, and so I have this, awareness that I exist, but I am not, in the body at that time.
When you channel Athena, do you ask questions to start the channeling? Do you just think of Athena and then Athena just starts speaking through you? Do you write it down? Do you, if you're not working with a client or a student and you're just doing it for yourself, how do you access the information once it's been channeled?
Yeah. Well, it isn't a whole lot of good for me as Robin because my consciousness needs to be removed for me to have that communication. So sometimes if I think long enough and hard enough about something, the audible return will come. But that's not something that I can count on, and it's not necessarily a quick return or something I'm going to get right there in the moment. And you know what? Sometimes there's a lesson for me in something that I just have to live through and figure out on my own. But I would say that in the channeling experience, I just step aside and I don't remember a lot of the exchange, and it's kind of hard to explain it. I just have a thought that, someone's asking a question. I'm more thought provoked, I would say that definitely, like, if there's any type of a disturbance or a question that, anyone in the family, for example, would be having, there would be an immediate solution or a foundation that would come forward that, I could use in that given, situation in a recording. So that's where a lot of
Do you
my
record it or you have somebody
podcasts
there?
be, recorded, and then they're not necessarily there. It might be something that transpired, and I might be pondering it afterwards as Robin, and then they will say, "Get ready to record," and I'll get ready to
Okay.
record
All right.
and come
I
out.
was wondering how you get the information because I'm asking for guidance from spirit all day. Okay, what do you, is it, should I take the service streets or should I take the freeway? But and sometimes I'll hear, check your GPS.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Like,
probably
duh, you got
probably
it
should.
right on your phone.
I am, but, I've kind of just settled into, I do it a lot for other people and family members, if I need to. But for myself, I wouldn't say that I actually am using it that much, but I think that, some of this just kinda gets infused in you. There are things that just start to happen very naturally, and that's kind of what's been going on.
And the more information you get and the more you validate it, the more you learn to trust it, and then it just comes in, and then it's just second nature. That's what I've found. Would you be willing to channel for us and just see what Athena has to say to all of us today? That would be great.
Yeah. We are excited to move with you. As Robin said, the moment that she has a thought about us, we are entering. Yeah, she is gone. It doesn't take very long. Why have we come? Maybe this is the question that you would like to have answered today. We have come here to expand consciousness, to be an assistant to people that are going to be facilitating this new rise in consciousness that is now coming to the planet. We are what you call activators of activators. There's no one coming before us in sessions that is not getting their consciousness activated so that they can begin to create, instead of in suffering, in happiness and joy. And how does that happen? Well, it happens by loving oneself in the free will choice that they have in how they feel in their experience. And so, what people are leaving out of the equation sometimes is that this rise in consciousness is a gift. It is not one that is effort, it is not one that is worked on. It is one that comes through the observation of oneself in how you think and how you feel. And once you can do that and drop your judgment and your condemnation or your regret or anything that you are feeling in negativity towards yourself in the way that you have felt your experience, then you will be connective to your source. When you get connective in your source, to your source, by the love of yourself, you are now aligning to the unconditional love of source where flow comes from. As that flow is allowed into you through the love of yourself, your consciousness starts to rise from that current that is coming into you. When consciousness rises, what happens is new choices become available to you. So the old choice of being angry, of being jealous, of being controlling, of being condemning, of regretting, all of the things that you thought were what a human just did and you were trying to effort out of your experience are no longer available for you to choose from. You have risen to the level that your source resides at, of which negativity is not a part of, you see.
Amazing. And that's what I find too. The more I work with spirit and I keep my vibration high, the happier I am. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. What do you say to people that are really struggling with getting to a place where they're just even level, where they're not depressed and stressed all the time?
They must allow themselves to feel exactly what they are feeling. You are reminding us of a exchange that we had the other day with a lady that was really suffering in her experience, getting together with an ex and a new wife, sharing her grandchildren. There was a lot of disdain or negativity. Let's just use that term. And what we really wanted to give her was the understanding that she doesn't need to give any of that up. That you are signal senders in the way that you feel, and it isn't the disdain that is being felt that is the problem. It is the dislike that one gets of themselves after they continue to feel it over and over and over again. Yeah. If you would start to recognize that you are felt in every emotion that you are sending out and that there is no reason for you to feel it over and over and over again, you would get the flow of the divine coming to you, which provides the solution to the problem that you are experiencing that you're so desperately wanting to solve by yourself and not able to. A human, as Robin said, gets to do one thing, gets to feel its experience. It doesn't have the ability to make the creation or to change what is felt. That is all done by the divinity part of you through flow. So once you understand that this gift that you have in free will, that you get to feel any emotion, the whole deck of cards is there for your choosing, and that there's no one condemning or judging you in any way for the way that you are feeling your experience. If you could just view yourself in that, if you could just surrender to that feeling, the divine flow would come in and lift it right out of your field and then flow the solution to you very naturally. That's what would occur. In this natural rise of consciousness, and it is going to happen automatically, there's a lot of stimulation to the planet right now, which is increasing the vibration on Mother Earth as a whole. That stimulation is a stimulation to the energy centers of all humans. So even the ones that are not on the spiritual path are going to start to feel the vibration throughout their body. And how are they going to know? They're going to get a kick off of experiences that match what they're holding. Some of them are going to suffer. We're not saying that it's going to be a terrible thing. They're suffering anyway. Most of them are holding things that are providing them with experiences that they do not like. But there will be an acceleration of that so that you can take a look at how you are creating in your experience and decide that you would like to do it differently. That's the whole reason for it. So humans are actually going to get some help. The speeding up of the vibration is going to move things into the field very quickly and show you what you are holding in the way that you are creating. And then you're going to have to figure out this process of surrender, this process of loving yourself and what you felt instead of judging, condemning, trying to make it go away, efforting in your experience. All of those things are expanding that energy. They are not releasing it from the field.
What about people that want to manifest things? Robin mentioned that manifesting can be instantaneous.
Yeah.
How do we do that? And does everybody have the ability?
Yeah, as you open up your energy centers, the chakras are the sending and receiving devices between you as a human and you and the divine. So, based upon how open your vessel is, based upon how much light energy, enlightenment is light energy coming into the being through those energy centers. So, how much are you hanging on to? How much are you denying the flow of the light force energy? When you start to allow, when you start to surrender, when you stop opposing, stop judging, stop condemning, and start letting go of the emotions that are felt, the more divine flow reaches that energy center. What happens is that creates a rapid spin. And in that rapid spin, it draws in more and more light energy, which increases your ability to manifest at higher speeds. You came here to be the gods that you are. You came here to create at the speed of a god, that you would have a thought and instantaneously be able to create what it is that you prefer to feel in your experience. Some people think that they are here to choose what is going to make them feel that way. That's up to the universe to do. It knows by what you send and the way that you feel, what it is that you prefer to feel. If you try to form the experience, if you try to go out and make it happen, if you think you have to be a dancer, you have to be a musician, you have to have a certain house or wife, that is going to clog up your field and actually slow it down, because you are not the creator of the experience. You are the creator of the feeling that will then be taken in by the universe and matched, you see.
Interesting. Well, yeah, because we oftentimes will get what we're asking for, but sometimes through a circuitous route. It's not how we envisioned it was going to happen. So, what I'm hearing you say, and I'd love if you'd clarify that for us, is stay focused on what it is you want and then let go of how it's going to happen. What's the how do we find the perfect combination of effort on our part and letting the universe do what it needs to do to help us manifest whatever it is we're wanting to manifest?
Well, first of all, do not make it about an outside thing that you are wanting. Make it about the way that it is going to make you feel. One must ask himself the question, what is it that I am desiring in the way that this experience will make me feel? So it isn't necessarily about the focus being on the item or the person. It's about knowing what your response in the way that you're going to feel is. That's what you really want to identify. So the best thing that a human can do is that when there's a need that adds resistance to the field, it starts to create an edginess or something that doesn't feel good. Let's use that term. And so to try to create from need, it starts to get a heaviness or a weight upon it. And so sometimes what we recommend that people do is that you look at others that perhaps you can admire or that you can see are living the life that you yourself think would feel good to you, and that you can be very grateful and very appreciative just viewing them in it. And inadvertently, in that view that you are projecting out at them, remember the universe is always receiving you, isn't it? It has nothing to do with anyone outside. Even though you think you're using an outside influence, it's receiving you in the way that you feel. So you may have a lot of resistance within yourself and you can't generate that feeling because you have a lot of negativity, but you can look at someone else and you can generate positivity towards what they are doing, what they are experiencing, what they are having. Inadvertently, the universe will receive you in that and return on that. Yeah.
So, for example, if somebody's ill, let's say with cancer or some other disease, and they're scared to death and they're really suffering from a physical standpoint, what I'm hearing you say is the easiest thing for them to do is to pay attention to somebody that looks vibrant and healthy and is living a joyful life and try and feel that feeling about the other person instead of trying to feel it in themselves.
Well, quite honestly, in that scenario, that would be very difficult for someone that was ill to do and to be successful at. Yeah. You might be able to do it with a car or a home. Yeah. There's not quite as much resistance there, but you're not going to be able to penetrate the kind of resistance that you would be holding in a sick body or in a way that didn't feel good to you. So what we teach people, and it is sometimes surprising, yeah, is you must love the thing that you hate. Yeah. You must get in touch with this illness or the thing that you have created as a signal to yourself in the way that you have been creating for a long time and not noticed. So let us give you the example that perhaps a human was feeling a great amount of rage for many, many years, and they had one experience after another that came to them that enraged them, that made them feel that way, trying to get their attention. This is how you are creating. You are holding energy that is bringing this mirror to you, but they don't know that. They don't recognize that. So then the universe ups the ante. So much energy has built in that chakra or that cell that they are holding, that it denies the life force energy or that healthy, vibrant energy from entering into that area of their body. And then a condition gets developed by the universal part of them, again, as a signal, you're holding energy. I can't deliver to you what I have created for you because you continue to hold on to this rage, this anger. So then they get an illness. And every time we talk to someone about their illness, perhaps this was the person that was enraged, and we'll say, how do you feel about having the illness you have? And they say, I'm enraged. I did not think this is something I deserved. I'm very angry. I feel changed. I feel it's not fair. And so they have an illness now that is representative of the same emotion that they were getting mirrors of over and over for the last 10 years. And they had ignored it and denied energy to themselves. And then it went on to create an illness or some type of a dis-ease within the body. And so the way that a human can best take care of themselves, let's use that term, is to always be aware of how they feel. How is it I am feeling in my backache? How is it that I'm feeling in my headache? How is it that I'm feeling in my sickness that I have contracted? And if I do have a sickness, I have to extend my hand to it. I have to thank my human for creating it for me as a sign or a signal so that I was actually denying flow. I was actually not allowing myself to receive what the universe created by my rage, which was opposite of that, which was great love, which was something that would be very satisfying to them. And so no one's trying to hurt you. No one's trying to punish you. No one's trying to make you suffer. The universe is forever trying to find a way to flow to you in its love for you, what it has created by the life you've lived, by the way that life has made you feel. And if you were enraged when you felt it, it matters not. The universe has received you in that rage and it has created something quite opposite of that. But as you continue to hold that energy, you are not a match to your source. The only way that you can match your source is through the love of self. And that's the love of the illness that was created by the self, you see.
So, how does one go about creating love of the illness? Do they do affirmations? Do they, what is there a technique or are there a, a bevy of techniques that a person who's ill can use to help themselves heal? Or does it just happen when they acknowledge, for instance, the
There is
rage?
one thing that we teach in all things, and it is the observation of oneself and the way that they feel. The moment that you observe yourself in the way that illness makes you feel, you are inviting the divine aspect of you into you to flow through you and start to assist you with the problem that you're having. So the awakeness, the awareness is the divine presence. That's what it actually is. When you are awake in your experience and you are observing yourself, you are observing the human in the way that it is picking and choosing how it feels about having that illness. You inadvertently are infusing yourself with light force energy. It's coming to you automatically. There are two of you. There is you, the human, and then there's the divinity aspect of you. So as you invite that divine aspect, look at me in the way that I am fearful. Look at me in the way that I am angry or rageful. And as you do that, that energy starts to permeate you and gradually lift your consciousness to where new choices are. But you don't make that happen. You don't change the way you feel. You don't regret. You can't tell the human to focus positively on someone that's not sick and have it not be negative. That's not going to work. You have to work with the human. You have to feel yourself in what you are offering until you get the human to surrender to you, to surrender to the love that you are offering it, and so that it becomes a match, you see.
Brilliant. I see vortices a lot used in healing. I see that in my mind's eye. And you mentioned a couple minutes ago about spinning. What is the significance of the spinning and the vortex or the vortices that I see in healing when somebody is transitioning back into pure spirit? All of these different things that it seems to be a common denominator that there are lots of vortices that I see in all these different forms of healing and spirit communication.
Um, and the only way we could describe that to you, maybe in terms that would mean something or resonate, is it creates a magnetism. Yeah.
So that attracts something. Mhm. Yeah, interesting. Because I always see them, and I just discovered there's this thing called vortex mathematics that I think is way above my pay grade. I haven't delved into it a lot yet, but it's like these vortices are everywhere in the work that I do, which is fascinating. Any last wisdom or guidance you wanna share with us before we bring Robin back in?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest things that we are here to teach humans is that suffering is never an outside cause, that everything that you are experiencing is sovereign, is coming from inside of you in the way that you are feeling. And so when a human starts to blame someone, when a human thinks someone is responsible for the way that they feel, they are actually expanding that negativity and they are not allowing the flow to reach them. When you become the I am presence, when you say, I am choosing to feel this way, I am choosing this thing that I am feeling. This is what we call the I am presence, or the ability to embody your source in your view of yourself, in what you have chosen to feel. This is the biggest thing that we teach. It is the thing that heals humans. They are to understand that there is no time per se, the way that they look at it, that they exist all at once, that everything that they have ever lived is upon that timeline, and that they are moving around that timeline based upon how they are triggered. What are they feeling in their life? What does their lineage cause them to respond to in the way that they think and feel? And so the moment that something comes into their experience that matches something that they're holding, they pop out of the present moment and they move to the moment on their timeline where that infraction or that traumatization or that negativity actually originated. And why is it happening? The human is forever working together with its divinity aspect, trying to heal itself. It's bringing you to that moment so that you can love yourself out of it, so that you can surrender to what you chose to feel, and that you can actually collapse that timeline into the present moment and bring more and more and more power, more life force energy into the now moment, where you can actually create the lives out in front of you that you want to feel.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your wisdom with us and your suggestions and guidance. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Athena.
You are most welcome. Good day.
Wow. That was amazing. Holy Moses, girl. We got lots and lots and lots of guidance.
What I get criticized for the most, and I'm just gonna get it out there, is I have no control over the speed. Uh, a lot of people have to put it in slow motion, and they get very frustrated with me as Robin, but for whatever reason, that's just how it comes, and I'm really not able to control that as much as I would like to slow it down.
Yeah, I it I know that when I'm working, like, especially doing a healing, I talk fast anyways, but I talk faster, and what I think's going on, and see if you agree, is the vibration is so high, and the information's coming in so fast that we're trying to relay it, and we're slowing it down even with our human
And it's not
speed.
really coming in as words, it's coming in
Right,
energetic. It's like a push of energy, and
right,
it's I gotta get this out right now, like, it
right.
just comes that fast, so
And it's like a translation almost. We're
yeah.
translating the energy into a language that we can share with other people. I know exactly what you're talking about. But you're very good at being concise, and in your interpretation, you're very good at conveying the message in a way that it's easily understood,
Yeah, I think that's true.
and you're very succinct. So, wow, that was great. Thank you so much for doing that. That was amazing. You'll have to listen to this when we release it so you can see what all they said. There's so many wonderful tidbits of guidance. Last question, why do we incarnate?
We are always learning. Whether what I'm told, whether we're in the body or not, we are always accumulating more, wanting to know more, wanting to expand, and that never stops, whether you are embodied or not. In that life experience and emotion is what's expanding the universe and us as a whole, and that's never. It's kind of funny you bring this up. I was talking to my son the other day, and he said, no matter how satisfied you are at doing something, there comes a point where you start tweaking it or thinking there's got to be there's a few things I like doing more and some things I'm finding out I don't like doing as much. And so that just never ends. No, it just keeps on going. There's always more and more and more. And that's the way I would answer that question.
Do you think it's because 'cause we're here to create?
Yeah, I definitely think we are here to create. We are here to experience ourselves, and in that experience, add to the whole. I mean, look at every life and the way that people are thinking and feeling and what they're going through. There's really, of course, there's probably a few similarities, but there's never any one person that's thinking and feeling the same way, even if they might be in the same experience. It's different for everybody. So that unique ability to expand consciousness is never gonna end.
Well, I was talking with a client about this earlier this morning, and I said, every experience is a one time experience because it's the only time that you, at this moment in time, is going to experience whatever it is you're going through with your interpretation and your thoughts about it. and all of that. It will never happen again. And it contributes to the collective consciousness. And when we back up a little bit and realize, oh my gosh, this is a one-time event that's happening. I need to put down my cell phone. I need to turn off the TV. I need to just explore and experience what it's like to be sitting in front of the Christmas tree at Christmas time with the twinkly lights and all of that, instead of sitting in front of the Christmas tree scrolling through my
Yeah.
my
You know,
social media things.
on my own personal journey, it's really funny when I started out early in my spiritual quest, when I would have thoughts or feelings about other people or things that were going on, I was thinking it was about them. They did something that upset me, or they didn't treat me the way that I thought I should be treated. And then as the spiritual journey went on, I started to think that um, that maybe I had something to do with some of the things that were coming to me. And then what I did is I started to condemn and judge. I started to try to change my behavior, watch myself, effort in my experience, get better at it, and actually didn't get better at it, just felt worse. And then finally, now I reached the point of surrender where I just allow myself to think and feel the way that I do, and allow myself to view myself in it. And I can just feel the difference of your consciousness starting to rise very naturally. And then eventually, what will happen is through that rise of consciousness, eventually you'll get to the point where stimulation doesn't happen anymore because you don't have it in you anymore. It's not a choice for you at that expanded level of consciousness, which I'm starting to experience a little bit. I still have some little things that sneak in now and then that I have, but I'm witnessing them. People say, "Well, is your life perfect?" I said, "Hell no." But I'm getting a lot better at accepting that. I'm getting a lot better at watching that and being able to look at it without hating it. That I'm getting better at. So that's what the journey is all about. It's really about surrender and acceptance and likening yourself to your source because that's really how it feels. And so I'm finally getting that understanding, and I hope that through the teachings that I do and the people that I see, that they arrive at that nice place.
I experience that too. I'm joyful pretty much most of the time. The only time I'm not is if something electronic isn't working properly, like a computer or the internet or something. And that's why God sent my husband Tim and Chris, my producer, and sometimes my son Jonathan. I'll text him. I'll say, "Help me! What am I doing wrong?" And sometimes it's out of my control. And then I just go to, okay, Ryan, really, you're being a drama queen. Just chill out. This is not worth getting upset over. So you are remarkable, my girl. What a joy to get to talk to you. And thank you for bringing Athena in for all of us as well. And thank you for sharing all of this with the humans here on the planet, because you're helping people better their lives and get more involved in their own spiritual journey. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Speaking of which, how can someone find more about you and
Yeah.
the work that you do?
I have Athena in Truth website. That's where I have private sessions and a lot of courses and some downloadable programs and meditations that are on there. And I also do Kundalini activations every 2 months. I put on one of those and I keep it to 20 people because I like to keep that more intimate. And so I also have another website that I developed with my son called Athena Universe. And it has an Ask Athena option. So if someone wants to email a question as opposed to having a private session and they have something pressing, maybe they can't get in right away, that's something that we developed on that website. And it's also where the membership to a lot of the writing and a lot of the things that come from the Shiva energy also go up on that website. So they can check that out as well.
So AthenaInTruth.com, is that the one?
Yes, and AthenaUniverse.com.
AthenaUniverse.com. All righty. Okay, everybody, how fun was that? In the meantime, we're sending you lots of love from Sweet Home, Alabama, mwah, and from Florida, too, where Robin is. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
To enhance your spiritual journey, click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your family and friends.